You deserve to be, do, or have whatever it is that you desire. And that begins with shifting the way that you see yourself in the world. Welcome to the Psychology and Manifestation Podcast with your host, Sudani Firestar. I am so happy you are here, my dear. Okay, so I know your girl's been a little bit MIA. I am a little overdue for this episode, so I'm going to hit you with 2 back-to-back episodes to make up for lost time. I actually have been feeling rather under the weather, as you can probably tell from my voice, which I feel like has been trying to give up on me for the past week and a half. But I'm going to push through. It's a holiday season. I'm really excited for this time of year, regardless of the fact that things seem pretty crazy and overwhelming at this point. But I really love the holiday season. I love being able to have the opportunity to spend time with my family. That's truly a blessing. I am so grateful for that. All right, so let's just dive straight into it. So, today's episode is about identities and labels because sometimes we carry these labels that someone else has placed on us for our entire lives without really evaluating whether that's truly who we want to be. We decide it is what it is. This is who I am, and this is who I will always be, even when a certain type of identity is no longer serving us. Or there are times where we have a feature of our identity which we think are fixed. And I'm going to use fixed in quotes because these days, like, really nothing is fixed from birth, right? We can change all kinds of things. But sometimes we can let those parts of our identity hinder us, and we automatically assume that due to that part of our identity that certain doors are closed to us and those opportunities will never be available to us. But it's up to us to decide that we are going to look past that, or we're just going to bust down that door and create a pathway for ourselves, regardless of what society has told us is possible for us. But before I get into the juicy details of this episode, I have a sponsor. My first sponsor for this episode is the Next Level Now Visionary Masterclass. This is a free masterclass, and this is for you as the woman who is a high achiever, who has done everything right on paper, but feels like there is something still missing. You have a dream that has been on your heart and your mind for years that you have not quite been ready to pursue because people have told you that it's unrealistic, or you've just told yourself that it's impossible for various reasons. And so it's been there, and you keep thinking, yeah, new year, new me, like next year is going to be the year when I do this. But then by the end of the year, you're no further along, and that's disappointing to you because you know that if you just push through and you bust down the barriers to achieving that dream, that anything is truly possible for you. And you deserve that because you were born to be extraordinary. You are a visionary, and I'm going to help you tap into that next level version of yourself in this masterclass. It's free masterclass. It's available in the show notes. It's going to change your life, and it's going to change your new year. You're going to start making progress towards that impossible dream, that Delulu dream, because if there's anything that I have learned from studying entrepreneurs and some of the most successful people we know, it's that the people who are the most successful, the happiest, are the people who have the courage to pursue those Delulu dreams, no matter what anyone else thought of that dream. Okay. All right. So back to the meat and potatoes, the main part of this episode. All right. So let's start with the parts of our identity or labels that are like changeable. So I'm going to give you the example of lazy, even though that doesn't apply to you because you're the high achieving woman, right? But I think that this is a great example because it has come up so many times in my work as a school psychologist. And initially, I wasn't really sure where it was coming from. It was like, I would be interviewing students about some of their strengths and their challenges. And there would be many a time when students would tell me that they were lazy. And I was just thinking, where did they get that from? Like, when did they decide that lazy was a part of their identity, that they were just a lazy person? And it was almost like they had just given up and they decided that that was who they are and there was nothing they could do about it. which obviously you and I both know isn't true. And so I just be thinking, like, where did that come from? Because I knew, especially evaluating students for special education services, that it's not about laziness, that they are not truly lazy, that there is some obstacle to them initiating tasks, getting started, producing their work. There's something holding them back. And oftentimes, what would be holding students back would be something like, undiagnosed ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, in which some students can have a hard time organizing their time, organizing their work, prioritizing, initiating tasks. And yet, they were just wearing this shameful label of lazy. And they decided that that's who they are. And that's the reason why they weren't being successful in school. And I would think to myself, like, where did this come from? And then our social workers would then produce these social history reports from interviewing the parents to get background information that was relevant to the work that we were doing to evaluate students to see what their needs were. And oftentimes, this label would be coming from the parents calling their children lazy, and then their children then adopting that label as a part of their identity and deciding that that is who they are at their core, and there is nothing that they can do about it. That's just who I am. I'm just not doing my work because I'm lazy. I'm a lazy person. And that isn't true, right? They are not lazy. They could be that productive person. And so examples that apply more to you would be something like being the shy person. When I was growing up, I oftentimes identified as the shy person. And as I grew older, I realized that a lot of that originated from my childhood and, various experiences that I had had in my life where I just became the shy person. And, labels and parts of our identity are okay if those are parts of our identity that we wear, almost like the bags that we carry that really are affirming and make us feel good about ourselves. But if there's any part of your identity that is dragging you down or is a limiting belief that is holding you back from going to your next level, then it's time to shed that label. It is time to shed that identity. It is not permanent. It is not a fixed part of who you are. And so for me, being the shy person really held me back. Public speaking, I had a fear of public speaking, yet I was someone who wanted to be an adjunct professor at some point in my life. And, wanted to do something like this, to be a podcaster. I wanted to be a podcaster. I want to host digital courses of my own. I want to be an entrepreneur. And yes, while there are some women who are entrepreneurs who are shy and they just can do things in the background. That's not what I really wanted for myself. As I grew older and I figured out what my purpose was, I know that I'm a teacher. I know that I am a coach. I know that I am someone who can act as a consultant, a mentor to support women, right? I know that that is my calling, and I know that that will always be my calling and one of the things that lights me up in my heart and my soul. But if I had continued to be the shy person, the person who always wanted to hide, the person who never wanted to stand out or be seen, it would be very hard for me to go to my next level. It would be very hard for me to do something like this, put out a podcast and speak my truth and teach what I know to be true, right? So there is the opportunity to shed those parts of our identity, those labels that we've decided are true for us based on our childhoods, based on how we've been raised, based on experiences that we had that made us kind of retreat or want to hide, right? So let's think of another one. Anxious, the anxious person. That is an identity that I wore for a long time that I've been so happy to shed. Because again, that was also something that really held me back in a number of ways, or just didn't make me feel good, made me feel unwell mentally and physically. For example, whenever I had to do something like public speaking or, go into a situation that might be, I guess, more intimidating or might involve conflict, I would get really, really nervous to the point of having physical reactions, like somatic complaints, so to speak. I'm thinking about when I first started doing psychoeducational testing as a school psychologist. So going into those testing appointments with the students and wondering if I was going to make a mistake. Will I be able to handle this? Will I do this well? And then, also at those times, I had a supervisor that would be sitting right beside me during those appointments. So that made me feel even more nervous. Like this person is evaluating me. And if I mess up, what does that mean? about me or about this work that I'm doing. Or there would be situations when I would be going into meetings with parents and I'd be so incredibly nervous about sharing results with parents that I thought that they might not like. And so, yeah, again, I would feel really sick. I would sweat. My heart would be racing. I would have to go to the bathroom because, like, I felt like my stomach was in knots, like I had pains in my stomach. I felt so ill. And there are so many other things that would occur that were associated with this identity of being anxious. And it was so freeing when I finally got past that, when I did the work to overcome my anxiety and to be able to shed that identity that was no longer serving me. So, how do we do that? How do we change our perception, these fixed ways of viewing ourselves? You decide to see yourself in a different light. You decide that you are no longer going to be that person. You are no longer the shy woman. You are the bold woman. You are the confident woman. You are the driven woman, the go-getter, right? The high achiever. That is who you are. And so it starts with trying on a new label, not even trying it on, embodying a new label, putting that on yourself and going with that. And that can become an affirmation for you. So you can check out previous episodes where I talked about affirmations. So you create an affirmation, right? I am confident. I am bold. I go for what I want. Okay? I'm not afraid to put myself out there because I know in the end I always win. So you create the affirmations for yourself. You think of the antonym, you think of the opposite of that word that is no longer serving you, that is holding you back from going to your next level. You think of the opposite word. And then you also start to begin to think about how that new version of you would carry herself. If you're saying, I am the confident woman, what does a confident woman wear? Like, what kind of clothing does she choose? What is her style? What does the confident woman drink? What is her drink of choice? You know, it is a matcha latte? Is it Earl Grey tea? Is it an espresso, a cappuccino? What is her next level drink, the confident woman's drink? How does the next level woman version of you who is confident travel to work? How does she respond to people? How does she respond to conflict or high stress situations? What does she know to be true about herself? What do you know to be true about yourself, right? So you start to think, like, if I'm the confident woman, and as the confident woman, how would I respond in this particular situation? And you start to script this out. You script out, like, what is the typical day in your life as the confident woman? How do you dress as the confident woman? How do you speak? How do you present yourself? How do you carry yourself in the world? How do you carry yourself in the world, right? You got to get a little shoulder action in there. Okay, so that's how you transition into this new version of yourself and how you change your mindset about identities and labels, because they are not fixed parts of who you are, regardless of what you were told as a child or whatever kind of negative experiences you've had throughout the course of your life that told you that you were that label or that was a fixed part of your identity. Now let's talk about the other fixed parts of identity, right? Because as I said, like, there are physical features now that are no longer really fixed, and they haven't been fixed for a long time. There's so many different ways that people can change their physical appearance these days. So those things are not really fixed. But say that you're not one of those people who's about to go out and change any of those parts of your fixed identity, any of your physical features. But you might still hold this limiting belief that because of that certain part of your identity, that certain things aren't possible for you and you can't do or be or have something because of the way that you look, whether that's your body type, your skin color, right? Your height. Oh, I can't do that. I can't be that because people who look like me, they don't get those opportunities. You can be the blueprint. The blueprint can begin with you. Someone has to lead, someone has to be the first, and that could be you. So don't ever tell yourself no. Even if you haven't seen someone else do what it is that you want to do, you can be the first one. You can be the model, the one other people look up to, the one young girls look up to, the one other women look up to, right? You can be the one who affects change and opens up doors for others to follow you through. So that's what I have for you today, my dear. So what can you do with what I've shared? You can start to reflect on the labels, the identities that you've been wearing, that you've been carrying, that are no longer serving you, that are limiting you from getting to your next level, because you deserve to have it all. You deserve to be, do, or have whatever it is that you desire. And that begins with shifting the way that you see yourself in the world. All right. So reflect on that, reflect on the labels. You can even reflect on where they've come from and decide that you no longer want to carry that forward with you. So it's all about choosing, deciding to see yourself differently and choosing the antonym, the opposite. So if that is, I am the shy person, I am the shy woman, now you are the confident woman, you are the bold woman. Okay. And then, so that can become your affirmation, or you can create affirmations that align with the new version of you, the confident woman, the bold woman. And then you script what it would be like to embody that identity. So you decide, you think to yourself, what would the confident version of me do? What would the bold version of me do? What would the bold version of me wear, drink, say? How would I react as this new version of me? And script that out. And each day when you wake up and you go out into the world, you say, I am the confident woman. I am the bold woman. And so how am I going to move through the world today? Okay. And for those other parts of your identity that you might see as fixed, like other parts of your like physical body, your features, so whatever physical part of yourself you decided is hindering you and preventing you from moving forward in life and achieving your dreams, just know that you could be the first. You could be the first to break that glass ceiling. You can be the blueprint, the model, the one that other people look to for being the first, the success. Okay? Because someone has to do it. How many Oprahs are there? Like, she had to break the mold. She had to be the first. Or if we're thinking about first African American woman to win a Grammy, Ella Fitzgerald, and she's also the first woman to win multiple Grammys. She had to be the first. Like, someone has to be first. And that first person can be you. That first woman can be you, regardless what anyone else has said is possible for you. You can open those doors. Think about the models, right? The version of what we used to see as models used to be so restricted, like, oh, I can't be a model because I'm too short. But these days models come in all shapes and sizes and packages. Their identities are so diverse. Think a Winnie Harlow, think Sophia Hirao, right, who has Down syndrome. Like, you could be whatever you want. You could be or have whatever you want. And you can inspire so many others to do the same. It's okay for you to be the first. In fact, it's wonderful for you to be the first, because your life, you're going to be an inspiration. You are an inspiration. So that's what I have for you today, my dear. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, okay? Subscribe. And if you're watching on Spotify, listening on Apple Podcasts, hit that subscribe or follow button. And if you want a more in-depth episode that talks about this topic, definitely feel free to leave a comment. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Spotify if you're not aware of that. You can do that there too. Deep breaths, crazy season, holiday season, all the love, all the excitement. Until next time, love you. Bye.